So romantic idealism is worse than just an obsession. It actually defeats your goal in its own psychosis, in its own craziness. To be romantically idealistic is to have a story pattern that you believe must be the path of love, and that it must be magical. We fall in love, it's completely out of my control. It is fated, it must be, we're soulmates, etc. Happily ever after. Completely unrealistic storyline according to all data from human life. But we really want to believe it. We desperately want to believe it. And we think that you've been jaded if you don't believe it anymore. Well, that's a religious type of mentality, like, oh, you don't have faith, huh? That's your loss. But actually, what we need to do is update our systems, because I think romantic idealism is born actually of the brain chemical cocktail drug that happens when you fall in love. And falling in love is a psychological / brain chemical process that makes us crazy. And the reason it exists is to procreate. And so, yes, we want to procreate. That is our prime directive as biological beings. And so the brain is doing a strong, powerful job to get us to do that. But when we story it, when we add all this magic to it, what we're really doing is showing that we're in love with falling in love. That we just don't really want to look at a relationship practically. We want it to be magic. We want it to be beyond human practical reality. And that we want to lose our agency in that. We want to be swept away by it so that we do not have to take responsibility for the choices we make in love. And what this does to us is it makes us irresponsible. And that so we keep choosing relationships that aren't going to work. And then we keep saying, oh, well, you can't lose faith. You've got to believe that it's going to happen. And then the next thing that pops along that starts to trigger your brain chemical cocktail, you're like, oh my God, it's fated. It must be meant to be. And this is what prevents us from actually finding a good relationship that will last, that will actually approximate the love and long-term commitment that we're hoping to get. And so, yes, romantic idealism defeats its very objective. It is a giving in to the madness of the brain chemical cocktail. And it doesn't serve us. It just hurts us. It keeps us out of reach of that beautiful perfection that we're seeking. And here's the wisdom that we need to really get in order to break this cycle. We need to understand that the troubadour poets that birthed the Victorian period of romantic love, that they were not talking about marriage. They were talking about love outside of any utilitarian function. They were just talking about being in love, the ecstasy, the spiritual journey of being in love. That's what they were talking about. And that's a beautiful journey in and of itself. As a spiritual practice, that's a beautiful thing, and we don't need to fault that at all. We have to understand that love is practical. It is about seeing another human being for who they really are. And that is a beautiful thing in and of itself, a spiritual experience. We have to strip away this magical thinking story in order to get to seeing reality the way it is. Once we can get to reality the way it is, we can start to actually make a plan, understand what we're compatible with, where we want to live, what we want to do with our lives together. Like, that's all doable only after you stop the magical thinking. Because the magical thinking that robs us of agency and makes us think, oh, it is not up to me, it is the universe telling me what to do. When we first lose the romantic idealistic myth, we find that we are very poor at making practical decisions about relationships because we haven't done it before. we've been copping out all this time. And so when you finally go, oh, I need to make practical decisions about my compatibility and where this relationship is going, you find that you suck at it. Throwing out the romantic idealistic myth and taking agency, saying, I am going to make this decision. I am going to think this through. I am going to be practical about getting what I want. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of getting the relationship that you actually want. And until we get there, we're just continuing to play in the imagination. And that unfortunately is robbing us of what we really want. It's not through losing yourself in the relationship or the love or the drug, but finding yourself, that you actually experience the spiritual growth, that you actually have the transformation that brain chemical is good for. The brain chemical is trying to transform you into a parent, okay? It's trying to give you that rite of passage. So it's an incredibly powerful experience. But what we do is we short circuit it when we continue to just hunt for new love, for that dream, for that romantic idealistic myth. We're just circling over and over again. Fall in love, disillusion, repeat. It's like we're just doing it over and over again. Once we take the blinders off, we begin to see what's actually in front of us and who we actually are. And that relating, that honest relationship is what develops us into an adult, into a parent to be. That's what's necessary. Now, once you have that, once you've built a relationship on trust and knowing the other and honesty, truth, then you can add that brain chemical layer. You can get the brain chemicals to start spiking the punch again, to animate the relationship, to excite the relationship. You can do role playing and all sorts of, ways to instigate that brain chemical effect. But you can't be searching for the drug. If you are, you're a drug addict. Don't you see? It's a false connection. It's an illusion. You're just searching the excitement in the brain. That's not another human being. That's not divine. That's not romantic, beautiful love. It's addiction. And so we have to self-regulate. We have to find ourselves through spiritual work to get over this addictive process and to get over romantic idealism. We have to find stability in ourselves such that romantic idealism isn't such a powerful lure anymore. And that, I think, is the harder ask. To meet the underlying need, we have to do deep soul-searching work. We have to get good at self-regulating our emotions and feeling worthy and self-love, worthy within ourselves. All of that work is hard work. But once you do that, I think that you can then find real relationship with a real human being and carefully build some of the brain chemical excitement on top of that.